Welcome back, everybody, to the Even Your Dynasty show. On today's video, we're going to talk about which three prospects I think are going to break out in 2025. I'm going to talk about kind of how I came up with this list, as well as I'm going to run through a few honorable mentions, um, guys that I think have a really good chance at breaking out, but uh, didn't quite make the top three for me. There's a lot of guys in the system I believe in. I actually think there's a lot of guys that are primed to have really, really good seasons. I think the Giants system is going to look a lot better next season than it does going into this season. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have a lot of really talented, toolsy players that are finally in full season ball where they start to get more national attention. So we're going to get into that. Before I do that, though, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you do enjoy the content, click the bell for notifications. We are going to do, we do our weekly live shows. We're trying to get more player interviews. For those of you that saw the Jeremiah Jenkins interview, super fun. He was a really awesome guy. Check it out if you haven't already. We're going to have another player potentially on the show. We're hoping on February 28th. We will confirm that next week once we have the confirmation from him, and I will then announce who it is. And that way you guys can prepare some questions. You guys asked a lot of great questions for Jeremiah. We want to keep it going with our other guests. It's a lot of fun. It will be a live show. I'm in Florida this week. So if you guys want to, or if you guys for the live show this week, it's going to be Dan and Ricky. So make sure you jump on with them on Friday and give them some grief for me, but anyway, so for the breakout players, the one things I did do is I didn't count anybody that I felt like already broke out last season. So an example of a player that I probably would have put on this list would be a guy like Sabine Ceballos, but in his 30 or so some odd games in high A, he absolutely took off. And I don't want to pick a guy that I already felt like kind of broke out. Same thing with a guy like Trent Harris and some of those other players. I also only want to pick guys that I believe are going to play the majority of the season in either San Jose or above. Otherwise, someone like Johnny Level probably would have been on my list. I'm a huge believer in Johnny Level, but I think he's going to play in the complex league and he might make a brief appearance in San Jose. But to me, that's not a breakout. Until you're in the full season ball against these guys, it's not a breakout performance. So with that in mind, first person on my list is Rainer Arius. I think this is a guy that he's going to make his first appearance stateside in full season ball. He played in the complex league last season. He was limited for the second year in a row. He broke his wrist. So he's got a little bit of the injury label on him at the moment. Both times it happened diving for balls, coming in, sinking line drives, and he broke his wrist twice now going for those. So maybe for starters, let's steer away from those balls a little bit. But when he has played, he has flashed pretty substantial power to all fields, has a great right-handed swing, very advanced approach, great handle on the strike zone, good pitch recognition skills. Granted, yes, it's Dominican Summer League and Complex League ball, but he shows a very advanced approach. And with his bat to ball skills plus his power potential, and he's 18 years old, still growing, still filling out his frame, I think the sky's the limit for him. I think he's going to break out this season, barring health, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict that he'll be healthy. If he's healthy, I think he's going to have a huge year in San Jose. And I think he's going to have the type of year that he's going to be nationally ranked on the top 100 list going into next season. So that's my number one player that I think is going to break out next season is Rainer Arias, because it feels like he is a prospect that is going to be he's one of those guys that I feel like is going to be a really good player if he can just stay healthy. So we'll kind of have to wait and see, but that's my first choice would be Rainer Arias. Second player that I think is going to break out is left-handed pitcher Joe Whitman. He was their third round pick in 2023. And if you watched him last season, he has three really solid pitches. Actually kind of mixes a curveball in here and there, but he has a really solid fastball, kind of has a little bit of run to it, a little bit of sink, a really good slider that he will throw either lefties or righties in any count. He has one that he likes to bury it on right-handed hitters on their back foot. Super effective. He'll backdoor a right-handed hitter, gets a lot of guys looking there. He also will use it to, get the lefties to chase out of the zone down and away. He'll front door a lefty. I mean, he will throw it in any count. Seen him throw it for steal it for a high strike. I've seen him, get guys down in the zone. It's a pretty nasty pitch. It's one of the best pitches in the Giants organization right now. And then he also has a really good changeup that is probably very underused, especially on lefties. It seems like he doesn't go to it as frequently as he could. Um, there's always the risk with the run back in. You run it in on the barrel, guys pop one out, but it's a really underrated pitch for him, and it could be really solid if he would use it. So I've said it before on past shows. Birdsong's been my favorite prospect in the Giants system, pitching prospect, I should say, in the Giants system. I think Joe Whitman is my favorite left-handed pitching prospect, especially amongst the starters. I think he has the best pitch mix of any lefty in the system, right up there with Birdsong as far as overall in the system. And I think he's going to break out this season in a big way. Last season, he struggled with walks in particular in San Jose. He was walking over 4.5 per 9. He did clean that up a bunch in Eugene. He actually got off to a really hot start in Eugene, then kind of ran out of gas. Hit his career high in innings at 103 last season. He'll probably bump that up. Hopefully the Giants are a little aggressive with some of these pitchers and they actually get those innings up a little sooner than later. So I'm hoping to see him up over 120 this year. And he'll probably start in Eugene with a chance to finish in Richmond. And I think this is a guy that's going to have a huge year. And he showed it at times last year. He had a couple games where he threw no hit, 5 or 6 no hit innings. He showed moments of just being almost unhittable. But, the command is a bit of an issue. But you look at his delivery, and it doesn't look like a delivery that should really struggle to throw strikes. It's a very repeatable delivery. He just, for whatever reason, starts spiking a few here and there. And one of the games I watched, I think he had like 3 wild pitches in it. But overall didn't actually walk that many hitters. He hit one guy and had a couple wild pitches, but overall, um, you know, really excellent stuff. I think he's going to take a big step forward next year in his second full season in the minors. Another guy that I think could be potentially a top 100 prospect at the end of the year. He'd probably be right on the fringes there. Maybe he ends up in the just missed range, but right in that range. And the last guy, now there were a lot of people I really heavily considered, and I'm going to kind of run through why I didn't end up picking them, but kind of inspired by Bo Davidson last season, kind of a more unheralded guy that took off. I wanted to pick somebody that was kind of a lower draft pick, wasn't just like super premium prospect that we're just hoping kind of gets it going. So I didn't go with a guy like Walker Martin. I almost went with a guy like Dakota Jordan or Jacob Christian. Love the power tools, love their overall potential. But I went with Jeremiah Jenkins. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, he was just on the show. It's just because no, I mean, yes, great guy. Love talking to him. But I have a little bit more belief currently in right this second in his pitch recognition skills and his bat to ball skills than I do guys like Walker Martin, uh, Dakota Jordan in particular. I think Jacob Christian and Jeremiah, I was really close on both of those guys. I like what Jacob showed as well. Also, friend of the show, came on with us a while back. Check out his interview. But I ended up going with Jeremiah on this one. Now, there's a few others that I thought about, guys like, Xander Darby, guys, I thought about, some of the young players down in San Jose like Lisbel Diaz. There were a lot of guys that I heavily considered with this, but I went with Jenkins. And the main thing was I really like his bat to ball skills. I like his ability to, when talking to him, getting that little extra on his mindset and his, self-awareness to work on things like recognizing the changeup better and all these little adjustments that he's working on with the off speed. And you watch his last season and he wasn't like overly struggling with it. He's still, for a guy that openly talked about how the average velocity in San Jose was, 3, 4 miles an hour higher than what he saw in college, especially in Maine, if not higher. He handled it well. And he has a very advanced approach. He has really nice power to full fields. I saw him, do a great job of spraying line drives around, hitting the ball, getting the ball up in the air, putting off different, both he put a double off the left field wall, a triple into left center, had a couple home runs to his pull side, a couple balls off the fence to right center, sprayed line drives around. Really, really high level approach last season, and he has some big time power. So I think Jenkins is going to be the guy that really busts out this season. A lot of these other guys I think have the potential to be really, really good this season. Some of them I think it's going to take a year of development, and then they're going to really take off in 2026. So I ended up going with Jenkins. Another guy was his former teammate Quinn McDaniel. I did almost pick him. A little bit spooked by the high strikeout rates the last couple years, but he has really awesome potential with his speed and power. So kind of almost went that route as well. So let me know what you guys think. Go through the Giants system. Tell me who you guys think is going to be the breakout player this year, which guys you're rooting for, all that good stuff. So look forward to hearing from you. If you Otherwise, we're going to have another video in a couple days where I'm going to talk about which prospects that I think are going to make their major league debut in 2025. And I've got 3 guys on that list as well. So have a good one. Go Giants, and baseball's right around the corner.